Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We're talking about a new report regarding one of Sony's upcoming live service titles that, as of right now, has not been canceled. That title being Fairgames. So recently, we got a insider report from Bloomberg that claims Jade Raymond, the founder of the studio, actually departed abruptly, and there was no reason given, and it seemed like internally at the studio, developers were feeling a little bit nervous, and we, more importantly, I would say, learned that this occurred shortly after external playtesting was conducted with Fairgames. Now we have a second follow-up report here from Colin Moriarty that seems to reveal maybe what's going wrong internally at Haven Studio with this title Fairgames. This is being reported by Push Square. They say Fairgames, formerly known as Fairgames with the $sign at the end, of course, was announced alongside Sony's disastrous first-person shooter Concord as part of the firm's wider live service push. However, recently we heard that developer Haven Studios founder Jade Raymond, a Ubisoft veteran who played a pivotal role in the early success of Assassin's Creed, had departed the company following a round of bad feedback. And now, courtesy of the latest episode of PlayStation podcast Sacred Symbols, more information about the project is beginning to trickle out. Apparently, a pre-alpha was distributed via PSN under the name Project Hearts, enabling a small number of participants to go hands-on with the game. According to one of those people, it's a battle royale crossed with an extraction shooter, with elements of both Fortnite and The Division present. If you remember the original trailer, it had a contemporary Robin Hood vibe to it as squads of fashionable rogues robbed from the rich. Apparently, the game sees you dropped into a large urban environment in teams of 3 to 4 and tasks you with stealing from vaults while other groups of players attempt to do the same. In other words, it sounds like yet another extraction shooter similar to the popular Escape from Tarkov or Sony subsidiary Bungie's Marathon. But apparently, the game does not feel good to play, and it's, quote, super clunky in its current guise, which reflects what Bloomberg wrote in its report on Jade Raymond's departure. The feedback to the release has not been good. Sony's said that it remains committed to Haven Studio under this new leadership, of course, but it's been 4 years since the team was founded and more than 2 years since it was acquired outright. Once again, it paints a very precarious picture for the platform holder's live service push, with the plug pulled on Concord in unprecedented circumstances and many of its online projects canceled behind closed doors. The company will understandably be feeling skittish about whatever it puts out next. Now, I have to tell you guys, I am not even remotely surprised to be hearing this information, but I'm glad we're getting this information because we know that not that long ago, Sony made it clear that they were going to start bringing more PlayStation users in to do stuff like this, right? To beta test certain projects, and they opened that up and they let people sign up, and it seems like one of the recent tests they conducted was, in fact, for Fairgames, and it seems like an NDA was signed, at least that's my assumption here, but of course, you know, information like this is going to make its way out, and it sounds like this game is going to be, you know, I'm not trying to be overly negative, but potentially another disaster for Sony where they're, you know, doing external playtests where they're letting actual players go hands-on with it and give their feedback, and it seems like all of the feedback is pretty negative. In fact, it was so negative that it made them want to depart with Jade Raymond. And, you know, hearing that it's a battle royale crossed with an extraction shooter, again, this is just like, guys, you are many days late and many dollars short when it comes to these types of projects and these types of games. There's no chance that this game comes out and does well, in my opinion. I think that just based off of the aesthetic alone, people are not going to feel attracted to this game, right? They're not going to want to pick it up and be like, wow, look at this new title, Fairgames. It looks great. If you go look at the feedback that they even got on the reveal CGI trailer, even then, this was like multiple years ago, people were like, what is this? And so I don't know what Sony's going to do here, but it does seem clear to me that this game does not have a future. A lot of people are assuming that they're going to cancel it, and you have to wonder why they didn't. Maybe it's just a matter of they canceled so many games already that they want to try to just see if something can be done with this brand new studio that was founded, that they decided to acquire for some reason without having any type of track record with them, and they have yet to prove anything. Maybe they're just trying to desperately extract something out of this. But what's really strange to me is that according to player feedback, this game is a mix of battle royale and an extraction shooter. And you look at the current situation that's occurring with Bungie and Marathon, that being an extraction shooter, and it's like, does Sony maybe think that because there are battle royale elements with this title, they think it might stand a better chance? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say that this game is going to get aggressively rejected if Sony decides to go through with it. And the game's already been in development for multiple years. Sony's already made a very significant investment in this title, in this studio. But if there's one thing that I feel like they maybe should have actually learned with Concord and that situation, is if the feedback you're getting is negative and it's not looking good and it just seems like it's turning into a risk, don't even bother. Right? The whole thing with Concord was apparently they didn't do enough playtesting. And so internally, the studio, there was like some kind of toxic positivity where they thought that they were really cooking. And apparently even some of the Sony leadership thought that they were cooking. But by the time they decided to reveal the game and actually show it, the backlash and just the, I would say just the disinterest from the gaming community was so intense and just so like, what is this? Nobody wants this. What's going on here? It was so bad that Sony would have been better off just being like, you know what, actually, guys, never mind. Let's just pretend we didn't show you that gameplay trailer. Let's pretend that we didn't put a release date. Let's just shutter the whole thing. Now, of course, that sounds very extreme because it's like, in that given situation with Concord, they figure, let's just push through and see if we can just make something happen. And the worst possible scenario ended up playing out where literally nothing's going to happen and you're going to have to shut this game down and actually refund people who bought it within 2 weeks. I very much can see a similar situation occurring with Fairgames here if they're doing internal, or sorry, I keep calling it internal, external playtests. That's important. They're doing external playtests. They're letting PlayStation players like me and you go hands-on with this game secretly, and the feedback is just purely negative. To me, it seems clear what has to happen here. Just end it now, right? Again, I don't want to be overly negative, but I do not want to see another Concord situation. I would imagine nobody wants to see that. Certainly, Sony doesn't want to go through that again. And it just once again highlights how misguided and frankly rushed the entire live service approach has been with Sony. I don't want to just, go on a tangent about that again, but my only hope here is that, after what we saw with Concord and what's going on with Marathon, that Sony is smart enough to realize that if it's just not coming together and the player feedback is negative, and this is a game that seems like it's going to struggle to find any audience at all, I hope they're wise enough now to know what to do, which is not go through with releasing this and then have it basically blow up in their face again. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I wanted to take time to go over this report and give you a bit of a follow-up. I think people were very curious as to why, Jade Raymond just suddenly departed the studio and what was going on there. And so it's, to nobody's surprise, because apparently the game's not good. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Leave the video a like if you enjoyed it or found it informative. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.